Hey, greetings and welcome to Code Quickie. Today we're going to be looking at visualizing batch data with Data Studio and BigQuery, right? So usually when we're dealing with our data, we usually, with big data, we go over to BigQuery, usually get big things done. We ingest things, whether we use PubSub, whether we use Dataproc, or whether we go from Cloud Shell, a VM instance, up uploading our data from CSV most of the time, or JSON some of the time. And sometimes we want to take a look at what's going on for data. It's not good enough to look at one big data table as given. So for example, we go ahead and run this query, and or we take a look at our table. Say if we're on a master table, I'm just going to go ahead and preview the table here. Sometimes we want to be able to visualize this data, and we want to be able to do this easily without too much effort in order to get our data from the table into some sort of chart or bar graph or map, as you will. So we can go ahead and do that with Data Studio. So we want to go over here, head over to this link, and I'll show you how to do that, go about doing it today. Right. So what's nice about Data Studio, what's very nice is that this is not part of the products for Google Cloud Platform. That means this is more like Gmail. This is more like Drive, where you add your files and it's there for free, connected to your personal account or your organization account for Google Cloud. So what I want to do, I want to go ahead, create a new data report, right? And what we're going to be using from these connectors, we're going to use in BigQuery, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to use a public data set for our lab tutorial today. Choose our project name, the billing project. Ours is GCP data certification. And the public data set we're going to use is Austin Bike Share. Go ahead, bike share trips. And we're going to go ahead and add like so, right? According to the table we are using. Right, so by default, you're going to get a default report, and each of these charts that they're known in Data Studio as reports. So if you add more reports, like a bar chart, want to add a little line chart right here, right? These are all reports, and then you're supposed to use your design skills to put this together in a meaningful palette. So we're going to go ahead and just delete all the different types of charts except for the bar chart, and we're going to go ahead and edit out our data. Now, what I want to do is I want to go and I'm interested in some start time and end times, right? So I don't want to look at the names, the subscriber types, right? I want to use some meaningful stuff, right? So I could go, so that date range dimension, don't worry about too much. I could go into our dimension here and change the dimension to start station ID. Right now, I have all the start stations, right? If you look in BigQuery, our start stations are these four-digit numbers, and we can see four-digit numbers here as well, right? And now metrics is like record count, so it's just basically counting. All right, it's just basically doing a count of all the different types of start stations in there. What we can do is we could go ahead and change that metric to the start station, right? And what we can go ahead and have here is our count. So how many times we see a bike share rider taking a bike from station ID 3798. And if we want to go ahead and see what's going on, we could go into style, show the data label, and we want to zoom out and we see by max, right? We have 77,000 people, right, taking bikes from that station, right? And that's how we can basically see our BigQuery. If we want to go ahead and see how that works in BigQuery. All right, we could go ahead and write a little SQL. Yes, real time, making sure that we don't write any errors. 3798 was the station ID, correct me if I'm wrong. And we see here that as it is in our table, so it is in Data Studio, so those values are correct, right? So now the next thing we'd like to do is say we want a custom query. Say we don't want to use this data from the table, but say we have like a query where we just want to check out a certain feature that we can generate using SQL, right? We can also go ahead and do is you can create a new report. And instead of using public data sets, right, what we can go ahead and do is make a custom query like so. Select your BigQuery project, and the query that I have here is this SQL statement, right? Where I'm just interested in the start times and the amount times where the station ID was at that max. 3798. Go ahead and add, right? And we get a chart. We get a table. I don't want to see a table. I want to see a bar chart. Bar chart going sideways, right? And we can see that our start times is 77,000, right? As edited here from market count. And if you wanted to see that data, right, we could just go ahead, add a dimension, right? But I won't do that this time. I will go ahead and add another chart, right? And this could be amount of end times, which is 75861, which is saying amount of end times. Amount of end times. If you go into our SQL and we just want to verify that it's still right, we can see that the count for end station ID, where our start station ID is 3798, is this number, right? So basically, for these rides, end station ID, right, where it actually exists, there's 75. So that means there is a bit of an issue, right? So we can see from our data, right, that, or we can see from these two, we can see from here, right, that bikes are being taken out, but not all the bikes were returned as appropriate, right? We could see that in BigQuery, and we can see that more visually in Data Studio, right, where the bar chart is not complete, this one's more complete, and so on. Right, so you want to change, go ahead and change that dimension from record count to amount start times, right, and just to see that value reflect. Right, so that, and right, that's a very simple overview, but when things get more complex, now you know how to go ahead and instead of seeing queries in tables, you could go ahead and see your queries real time in Data Studio, and visualize your data with Data Studio. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and the tutorial will be pasted in the description.